A werewolf or lycanthrope is a legendary human that's able to transform into a wolf-like creature, often during a full moon. TV and film have captured our imaginations with depictions of humans changing into these terrifying creatures. But the idea of werewolves isn't just from the movies. These stories date back thousands of years and from cultures across the world. The fact that these stories are so widespread suggests that the legend of werewolves might be inspired by actual events. And now, a series of reports have some believing something unknown is on a hunting spree in the bluegrass hills of Kentucky. I've come to Kentucky to meet with researcher Heidi Hollis, who says she has evidence that werewolves are on the loose.
So welcome to Kentucky.
It is so beautiful.
It's beautiful, but there's some really creepy stuff that's been going on around here. I am actually a paranormal and cryptozoology researcher. I write books, articles, and I host a podcast, all on anything and everything out of the ordinary. I am extremely interested in cryptids because I personally had an encounter with something that I cannot explain.
Now, you mentioned on the phone that there have been some recent attacks in the area?
Yes. Recently, some horses were attacked in Monroe County, and at a farm not far from here, there was a really awful mauling of llama that killed 6 of them. And I've got actually a video here to share with you that shows a little bit what took place.
Started hearing a very loud, strong, ferocious barking. It definitely had attacking sounds to it.
The llamas were still warm, the ones that were dead. The llamas that we were finding out on the field there, they were being consumed.
This is a very safe environment around here. There's been coyotes around here, but this is very unusual.
People living close to the farm told investigators that they heard what sounded like a fight between animals. So what or who was the cause of these bizarre attacks?
No resolution to that attack.
There has been no resolution, and that's one of the reasons why I called you out here. Parts of these llamas were eaten, and one of them at least tried to escape, so there was blood on the gate. What was it trying to get away from? An officer who found track marks could not determine what exactly they were. And these are considered guard llamas, and one was about 500 pounds.
Guard llamas are used all around the world to protect sheep and other livestock. And some have been known to kill or badly injure wolves and coyotes, so
whatever it was, it had to be big to take something like that out.
And wolves and mountain lions just aren't found in Kentucky anymore.
Not to discount what you're saying, but it does seem like the most logical explanation would be that it's a pack of wild dogs doing this.
I totally understand, but believe it or not, there's a fellow that has evidence that there might be indeed a werewolf in the area.
And he's willing to meet with us.
Yes, he is.
So how did you get into the field of cryptozoology?
I went into this field because I personally had an encounter with a werewolf-type creature. There's something to be said about so many people coming forward. That's an ultimate goal, actually, is to get people more comfortable in speaking on these things that are out of the ordinary. I brought Jen out to the small town of Russell Springs, Kentucky, because one researcher thinks this is the heart of werewolf country. Ben Foster is a writer, cryptozoologist, and he hosts a podcast called Midnight in Kentucky that focuses on weird creatures across the state of Kentucky.
What do you think is happening in this area?
I think that we have a major werewolf problem here.
That's a pretty strong statement. Why do you think that?
Strange things happen in Kentucky for as long as human beings have been here. The legends span back to the Native American tribes, who actually called this area the Dark and Bloody Ground. Tales of ferocious canine dogmen. And Daniel Boone himself, the explorer, describes encountering some type of hairy humanoid in northern Kentucky, I believe. This area that we're in now is particularly high volume for these types of events. Not only is there the llama farm incident, there were a series of attacks in Monroe County. And finally, there's this.
What is this?
These are documents from a police investigation on the mutilations. As you can see, they're heavily redacted.
I certainly understand why some things would be blacked out for privacy's sake, names, addresses, but the entire narrative,
Right.
wow, this does seem odd to me.
Why would you need to redact so much about a wild dog pack?
That's what I want to know. It doesn't make sense.
This raises more questions than it does answers, but I'm still not sold that this is a werewolf committing these attacks.
I have an eyewitness. He's had an encounter with one of these things. I'm sure he'd love to speak with you all.
Okay.
Wonderful. Great.
Heidi and Ben are convinced that there's some sort of cover-up going on, but there could be another reason to explain what's happening. Either way, I am intrigued by the redacted document, and it's something I want to delve into further to answer why it's been so heavily censored by the authorities. I thought by getting a copy of those reports, it would give us some sort of indication either to what's going on or what the police knew, but those to me almost seem worthless because they're so redacted.
Yeah, and the locals are really horrified about what's going on over there.
I honestly had no idea that there was any sort of werewolf lore in Kentucky. I clearly knew about the European stories and European mythology. In the beginning, I definitely want to look at real-life events, what could have caused that, feasible explanations that are based in science or actual fact before I will even remotely entertain the existence of something mythical. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm all for that, but keep in mind that mountain lions and wolves were moved out of the whole Kentucky area, so there's not a whole lot of options as to what this could be. And I really want to meet this witness that Ben has suggested because I think it may lead to some more evidence.
Ben's directed us to a local man, James Bunch, who claims he had direct contact with a werewolf.
Hey there, you're James?
Yes, I am. Good to meet you,
So
Jan.
we heard that you had an encounter with a werewolf.
Most definitely. Just right around the corner over here, actually. About the fall of '96, I was about 15 years old, and my friend and I, we saw this beast. Best I could describe it would be a werewolf. Greenish yellow, glowing eyes. And we saw this beast, and the best I could describe it would be, yes, a werewolf.
James Bunch claims he had an encounter with a werewolf. Can you show us where that happened?
Yes, I can. It's just right around the corner here, actually, not far. Right at this spot right here. I remember it vivid as can be.
And what happened that night?
Me and my friend, we were coming through here, taking a shortcut on the way home. I started to look upward, and that's when I just come face to face with this beast. It was standing literally a foot from me. It had these greenish yellow glowing eyes with little black pupils in the middle. And it had its teeth, long, about 2-inch teeth, and the lights behind us on its teeth. I'll just never get that image out of my mind of the saliva, the light behind me.
What was your personal emotion at the time when you're seeing this thing?
I was just frozen in terror. I just knew that I was dead. I just knew, and it was just pure evil.
It was a fascinating encounter that James took the time to share with us. And you could tell that he was uncomfortable speaking about it, almost as if he has some trauma, like PTSD, connected to what took place. To me, that lets me know this guy isn't kidding.
And then the thing just hunches down really quick, and it just takes off like a bullet. It just hit the tree line, and that was that. Covered that distance in about 3 seconds.
So based off of the speed, there's no way that it could have been someone in a costume?
Absolutely not. No way. No.
Did it occur to you that you should call the police or wildlife?
The only thing the police would have done here would have probably just laughed, really. I mean, or thought it was a prank.
What was your motivation to come forward now to share your story?
At first, I was a little bit hesitant, but the more I thought about it, I think that people need to be aware that whatever you may think, these things are real. The world just needs to know. If anyone else out there has seen anything like this, they can feel like they're not alone.
Going into this, I wasn't sure what to expect, but after I talked to James, we need to see if his story holds up to more scrutiny. James, would you be willing to sit down with a sketch artist and tell him or her exactly what you saw that night?
Actually, I'd love to do that. It would be nice to get it exactly right of what we truly did see, you know, and put it out there.
Well, we will make some calls and we'll work on setting that up. Thank you, James.
Thank you so
I
much,
appreciate
James. That poor guy. I mean, he had been through something absolutely horrific. The fear
the feeling that he was about to die. I find him very credible.
Now, I don't necessarily think there's some werewolf on the loose, but it did make me question, do we know what's in the forest?
Well, every year we're discovering new types of creatures in the known world, you know, and they call this a pseudoscience for looking into things, but who goes out of their way to stand out of the crowd like this?
Right, because there is that kind of disconnect. Scientists will say, well, that doesn't exist, that's not possible. You know, at one point in time, lots of things were considered not possible. James Bunch says that he had an encounter with a werewolf at age 15. Today, he's going to sit down with sketch artist Larry Elmore and describe what he saw that night.
I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, and they might not seem important to you, but they're important to me to build this structure. So let's start with the head.
It don't look like anything that I've ever seen before, but basically similar to a wolf head, yeah.
Are they long ears?
Yeah, they seem to stand out sharp.
Now the eyes.
Its eyes, if I could say what they told me, I absolutely hate you.
Get down to teeth.
They were more a little bit to the sides.
Didn't have any like large canines.
You know, sort of like your typical dog, but exaggerated.
That was one of the things that you were really specific about when you were recollecting what happened, the teeth, the saliva.
I remember that clear as day because I thought that's what's going to take my neck apart, so.
So it didn't have as much hair.
It had hair. You could see the hair and extreme muscle definition, like freakish muscle definition.
He's like half wolf, half something else.
It's definitely something else.
I'd rather see it on paper than actually in the forest.
Maybe if you just kind of bring that in there just a little bit more. Yeah, then it needs to be lower.
Well, I'm about done. Is this about right?
Yeah, it's the closest image that I've ever seen.
Wow.
That's to what we saw that night, definitely.
This is absolutely terrifying.